This is your daily dose of all things royal. Welcome back, my gorgeous, good-looking friends. This video is part 2 of exposing this military-grade censorship operations that Harry and Meghan have been conducting on the American people. If you're just joining in and have no idea what I'm talking about, please go back to part 1 in the Prince Harry and Meghan's Evil Psychological Warfare series. In that video, I made it a point to emphasize this letter that was written by House Representative Jason Smith. And within that letter, there was one particular sentence that I thought was very important and relevant to remind us of who is backing and supporting this attack on Americans. For the last 4 years, the Duke and Duchess of Sussex have been using their titles for everything, particularly around the activities when it comes to censoring speech in this censorship industrial complex. So if we go by Jason Smith's logic, then the British government is too effectively condoning these actions by the Duke and Duchess of Sussex in censoring speech by working with, as well as funding, which is a very important piece to this, organizations who have been involved with this censorship industrial complex. Now, I've said this before, but what really needs to happen here is an investigation on Archwell to see where the money is coming from to invest into these organizations or in these so-called partnerships that are supporting censoring Americans. Because where I'm going with this is that, yes, indeed, this could tie all the way back to the crown, especially if those funds have been coming from the crown or came from the crown. You see what I mean? So when we look at this psychological warfare that has been executed not only on the American people, but also the rest of the world in this PSYOPs that Harry and Meghan have been running for the last 6 years, you realize that this military-grade operation has been in alignment with our government this whole entire time, which technically would be illegal, which I believe the people who have been involved with this should be criminally charged. This psychological operation caused a lot of damage to not only people in the United States, but also people around the world, which very well could be seen as terrorism. And I believe that Harry and Meghan should be formally charged for that. So picking up from part 1, towards the end of the video, I introduced this framework that was created by the CTI League. This is a framework that became the seeds and foundation of the censorship industrial complex that we see today. This adversarial misinformation and influence tactics and techniques framework that they had set up was based off of actual Russian disinformation techniques and tactics that the Russians use to spread disinformation. In this framework, there is an offense and a defense. And in this video, we're going to continue to go through the offense tactics to show you how Harry and Meghan use them to actually harm people. And just for you to understand, all the blocks that you see in yellow are highlighted to show you that those are the tactics that Harry and Meghan use. We left off with this tactic: fake social media profiles, pages, and groups. Now, if you have been around for a while, you are very much aware of this bot army that Meghan Markle has been running since 2019, called the Sussex Squad. For those that want to know a little bit more about this global terrorist operation, I did 2 videos recently, as seen up on your screen. Please feel free to go check those out. It does provide a lot of information about who is behind this and showing you how these bot armies work. So now here's a perfect example of a fake profile that's being used to amplify a message pertaining to the British monarchy and tying it to racism and creating this division online. These bots belong to Harry and Meghan, or they belong to the PR firm that had been repping Meghan, which we all know at that time was Sunshine Sachs. And my personal belief is that they're still supporting Meghan. But back then, they were also amplifying messages for the Biden-Harris campaign, which goes back to a foreign prince using a title, funding and paying for these bots. Well, I think somebody needs to be looking into that, don't you? So next up on this framework, we have create fake or imposter news sites. A perfect example of this would be whatmeghanwore.net. This news site reports all about what Meghan wore. There's a lot of these websites dedicated just to Meghan Markle news. This one is for Meghan Markle Brazil. In addition to these websites, they also use other current existing websites like Celeb Bitchy. Moving on, in this preparation phase, we have create fake experts. Now, who is the first one that comes to your mind in this saga when we talk about fake experts? For me, it's this guy, Christopher Bouzy. Now, this tactic says stories planted or promoted in computational propaganda operations often make use of experts fabricated from whole cloth, sometimes specifically for the story itself. The attack here was on middle-aged white women, of which this campaign was built around single-purpose hate accounts and focusing on these middle-aged white women by going after them, not only in the media, but also online in this coordinated attack. How many times have we seen Christopher Bouzy in Newsweek, BuzzFeed, Rolling Stone, and the biggest ones who amplified this hateful campaign against middle-aged white women, Netflix, all to manipulate the public into thinking that racism is rife online and these algorithms of oppression by Safiya Noble, desperately need to be controlled and regulated for a more equitable online world. Again, this all serves this objective, which is to try and control the information online to prevent the rise in populism. Meghan, Harry, and Bouzy had no regard for the mental health of the people that they had used as an example in order to create this facade of this online hate and attacks that allegedly Meghan was experiencing to make her so suicidal, which I don't believe for 1 second that she was suicidal. This was all being used to create this excuse that we need a safer place online because people's mental health are being affected. Well, what about the people that you affected by attacking them viciously with the online militia that you have supported and funded? Which goes into the next tactic of cultivating ignorant agents, or I would like to say the flying monkeys. It says here, cultivate propagandists for a cause, the goals of which are not fully comprehended and who are used cynically by the leaders of the cause. Independent actors use social media and specialized websites to strategically reinforce and spread messages compatible with their own. Their networks are infiltrated and used by state media disinformation organizations to amplify the state's own disinformation strategies against target populations. The evidence that Harry and Meghan used this tactic is seen right here, all the way back since April of 2019, where Good Morning America on ABC Network, which is a mainstream media news outlet here in the United States, announces the Sussex Squad. Notice the use of the word army and how it's being used here. In this article, it specifically says that they're there to take down the haters. Meghan and Harry have a whole bunch of ignorant agents supporting various narratives that they're trying to get out there. You have a cluster about Meghan and how beautiful she is and the clothes that she's wearing. Then you have a cluster who is totally hateful of the royal family. You then have a cluster who's supporting Invictus, then another cluster supporting whatever humanitarian BS that Meghan is doing. Now, if you've been around and you know about the history of this saga and what was going on to not only content creators, but also people on Twitter, then you would recognize some of these accounts and names popping up on your screen. A lot of the things that they had been saying had been very racist and nasty and just flat out lies, pushing Meghan's propaganda. Now, the ones that you're seeing on your screen right now are just a handful of the main squatties who have been a part of the various campaigns that went after the royal family and attacked them, as well as carrying on with this hateful rhetoric around the British royal family is racist, as well as the media. I mean, really gaslighting people online. Practically everything coming out of their mouth was racist this and racist that, purposely causing division. Like, for instance, this one. This angry-looking squatty, Queen Bui, can barely go a tweet without putting in the word racism or racist in it. And part of the psychology around doing this is to get people agitated online. Now, while we may think that these ignorant agents are these flying monkeys for Meghan Markle, keep in mind that they're playing both sides. So from the opposition side, meaning the Megxit community, we also have ignorant agents that probably don't even realize that they're acting as ignorant agents for this psychological operation. The opposition side is definitely controlled and in coordination with Meghan. We saw that play out a few weeks ago as a result of now exposing what this is really all about. Now, one of the major players in this psychological warfare that Meghan and Harry have unleashed onto the world is Sarah Data. This Sussex Squad terrorist has been behind some of the worst trolling as well as doxing of people who just spoke out about Meghan Markle. This vile human being who's not even a natural born American citizen is here in America taking advantage of all this land has to offer, including its freedoms, but felt she had the right to go ahead and take away other Americans' rights and freedoms because her master didn't like it. Not only that, but under Sarah Data's leadership, she has put quite a few Americans in physical danger. For example, Sarah Data went after the Duchess of Narsussex despite knowing that she had a mental health condition. She relentlessly stalked and bullied as well as doxed her to a point where people had been making verbal threats jeopardizing her physical safety.
Sarah writes, "Why is she reporting me to random getter executives?" Well, Sarah, that's really none of your business. Why do you do the shit that you do? But I will answer your question. I think you're a fucking psycho. That's why. And you and your poison and your queen's poison keep coming over to get her and being psycho there. So that's why. If you are scared now, just wait until this is Meghan Markle's Sussex Squad here, folks. If you're scared now, just wait until the feds place you in handcuffs. Now, Sarah, could you please indulge me as to what I have possibly done that the feds would be placing me in handcuffs?
As you can see, the use of threats and intimidation to silence the Duchess of Narsussex, an American.
Your brain has been made idle for years. Well, what's that supposed to mean, Sarah? So I guess we are supposed to expect irrational screeds. What's that supposed to mean, Sarah? Blair, don't be a tool. You're so clever, Sarah. See, Sarah is trying to intimidate and threaten me. So, here, Sarah, and again, I'm allowed to voice my opinion that I think you're a psychopath. And by the end of the video, everybody's going to know why. And I've talked about you before. How I want to be remembered by criminals. What makes me a criminal, Sarah? Stop lying to your followers. You're lying one way or another. You're lying that you have the capabilities to find out, or you're lying because you know and you're just trying to get idiots like Resilient all fired up. And then I write, she has everyone's info. She has everyone's info too, because she does, or she claims she does, and thinks people should be in jail. See, it's not just me. I mean, if according to Sarah Data, half of the planet should be, well, 90% of the planet should be in jail because 90% of the planet doesn't like the illness that she works on behalf. Why haven't the feds already come and put me into handcuffs? You know, if they already have the evidence and I'm so dangerous, why am I still walking around? Are they just waiting for me to commit more crimes? Because the fear of Sarah Data 10 is the beginning of wisdom. Then this one says, LOL, that freak narcissist, I have a feeling she's going to be one feeling the shackles soon. Oh, do you call me Kay? How about that? You know, you all are, you know, they threaten lawsuits and defamation and all of these things if you say that Meghan Markle's a liar because she's a proven liar. But yet these people can go around and call me a criminal. I'm trying to kill people, a stalker and harasser, all the other things. Maybe I should start threatening lawsuits. And then we have soon they have to sleep with one eye open. Well, what does that mean, Gene MK? That sounds like a threat to me. Would that be, do I have to sleep with one eye open because of you psychopaths, or is that because the feds are going to be coming while I'm sleeping? So then Sarah, being the reasonable and rational person that she is, told an account that she just reported them for a murder threat, and it was unacceptable. I think it was some stupid little goofy like meme video or something on Twitter. And Sarah here, the feds and all of that stuff, reported her for a murder threat. Is she still walking around, Sarah, or have the feds come and gotten her too? Although I'm not relying on Twitter safety for this stuff, I'm still tagging them here. Good for you, Sarah. You are also probably a danger to yourself at this point. Are you a psychiatrist, Sarah? You probably need a wellness visit. Is that a threat, Sarah? Then she tells somebody, "Why are you stalking me? Why are you stalking me?" This was the one that she told that she was going to report them for a murder threat and attempted murder. "Why are you stalking me? Was I tweeting at you? LOL. You are literally delusional and also now sending murder threats. I take this as a murder threat." Well, if that's a murder threat, Sarah, what would you call what you do to everybody and what you've just done to me?
This is just a small sample of what Sarah Data did to people in this community for years.
Sarah was looking for a missing girl. Great. That's great, Sarah. But she's copying the State Department in it, and then missing girl halfway around the earth, and then she's saying, "Stay here, don't leave until we find her." So who the fuck are you, Sarah? And why are you a product manager for the Sussex Squad if you're able to do all of this stuff?
At the time, none of us knew about this psychological warfare that they have unleashed on us. But looking at this tweet now, could Sarah possibly have been a contractor for our government? That's very possible in this covert operation to take down our First Amendment. Either way, this woman needs to be found and criminally prosecuted for domestic terrorism. Moving on, next up in this framework, we have hijack legitimate accounts. A perfect example would be Baroness Bruck. This account has a sizable amount of followers, and no doubt someone, maybe Meghan herself, bought the account over and has been tweeting the most vile things about the royal family, particularly around Catherine and her cancer diagnosis. Prior to it being hijacked, this account was very much pro-monarchy. Now, of course, there's other examples out there on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, where this is happening. Now, the next tactic that Prince Harry is using in this psychological war is the use of concealment, of which anonymous social media profiles have been set up to go ahead and troll and attack others online. The 9 that I have put up here on your screen have been responsible for some of the worst trolling that I think I've ever witnessed of people within this community. The people who are behind these accounts that have been going after Avid Gardner, Trevor Colt, Duchess of Narsussex, Yankee Wally, all are directly connected to Prince Harry. Obviously, there are a lot more accounts out there that are running anonymously who are attacking various people within this community. I just put up the ones that I thought were the worst offenders or the worst that I've seen as far as attacks. The people who are behind these accounts, for the most part, know exactly what they're doing in this military-grade censorship operation because they are tied to the military. They would know a thing or two about psychological warfare. It's really fascinating to know that there are veterans out there that would do this to another veteran in support of taking away freedom. It really begs the question of, what were you fighting for? Anyhow, moving on, the next one is create fake websites. Folks, we all know that Meghan has quite a few sites that are up being run by these Sussex Squad terrorists. It may look friendly on the surface, but God forbid you click on it and they're distributing malware or launching some type of phishing operation and farming your data. All I can say is be careful, and if you can avoid any of these so-called sugar sites, do it at all costs, because I don't trust them. Now, the next one that we have here is create funding campaigns. Now, if you've been around for a while, then you would know that the Sussex Squad love to promote themselves as generous and giving people. And they do, a few times a year, create these campaigns to where thousands of dollars that so-called are being raised in order to give to these various charities. Now, the question is, do we actually know if the money is going to these charities? No, but there is evidence of money laundering. And this actually goes hand in hand with number 17, which is to promote the online funding. So driving traffic, engagement to funding campaign sites, helping provide measurable metrics to assess conversion rates as well as to mine data. I think this too also needs to be investigated. How do we know that all these campaigns that they are running, the money is actually getting to the charity that they say they're raising it for? Look, I understand that Senta Bali acknowledged it, but there were so many other charities that the Sussex Squad had raised money for. What if these monies are not going towards the actual charity, but instead going to something else more nefarious? Who remembers when Ian Sexton, Meghan's top lieutenant squatty, was fundraising money for a well in Nigeria before anyone knew that she was so-called 43% Nigerian? Does anyone remember they were doing that? Or how about the squatty that scammed thousands from the squad saying that she had cancer? I'm sorry, but with all the manipulation and lies that we have been fed, as well as this facade that they have been trying to keep going, I honestly don't believe that they're raising money for the good. Honestly, the FBI should really be investigating this global terrorist organization. But moving on, in this preparation phase, we have create hashtags. Now, we know how the Sussex Squad likes to use their hashtags, right? So in this tactic, many incident-based campaigns will create a hashtag to promote their fabricated event. Like, remember what happened with Lady Susan Hussey in asking Ngozi Fulani or Ngozi Fugozi where she came from? Well, the Sussex Squad amplified that and they had hashtags to support it. Also, we have here create a perception of reality around an event, meaning that the British royal family are racist. Certainly, only real events would be discussed in the hashtag. After all, the event has a name. And then publicize the story more widely through trending lists and search behavior. And as we all know, that did blow up. And now, if you think about it, how many times have Meghan and Harry done this to the royal family? Not only to sabotage Catherine and William's tours, Meghan and Harry use this tactic a lot, not only to damage the reputation of the royal family, but they do it to deflect information that they don't want the public to see about them. A lot of times, though, we know that these campaigns or hashtags that they put out there is coordinated. Now I'm going to go ahead and just cover one more block before I end this video, and we'll cover the rest of these in part 3 and show you how it all comes together. But the final block that we'll cover in this video is part of the micro-targeting, which is the clickbait. So part of the micro-targeting is create attention-grabbing headlines, outrage, doubt, humor required to drive traffic and engagement. We all know that the Daily Express is a Sussex-friendly publication, of which we know that many puff pieces are coming out of there. Around the time of the coronation, within a 24-hour period at one point, 44 articles came out. I guarantee the majority of them were created by Meghan herself or Meghan's PR team themselves. The thing that we really need to start doing is wrap our brains around the industrial scale level that this whole machine has been operating at, because it's not only just the Daily Express, where you have 44 articles being pumped out. We've got the Daily Express, the Daily Mail, the New York Post. I mean, every news outlet is practically pumping out these bullshit articles. And this is why it always feels like we're being flooded, because we are, and it's intentional. It's intentional to saturate the media with this garbage, not only to drown out things that maybe the globalists don't want us to see, but also to burn it into our heads, whatever narrative they're trying to force down our throats. This is what's going on, folks. This is pure psychological warfare. And the thing is, this is all designed to get people in line, to make sure that they do not go against the grain, do not speak out, do not challenge whatever narrative or ideology that is being forced on us. And that is evidently clear as to what has happened to what Meghan and Harry have been doing. And it's not just Meghan and Harry. I mean, the government did this with us during COVID. It's a real scary thing to think when you see how we all have been fooled. We all have been manipulated and also brainwashed in a way as a result of people controlling the narrative and not allowing alternative voices to speak out. In this small little use case of Meghan and Harry in what they have conducted on a global scale. So the question is, will we see justice? I don't know. It depends, really. It depends on if information gets out there. And that's kind of the place that we're in at this moment. There are a few of us that see it and have been speaking up about it, but you're witnessing as to what is happening. You're witnessing people panic and you're seeing the attacks beginning. Now, that's fine. That just gives me more validation in the work that I'm doing. So far, I haven't led you guys wrong. I was right about the censorship stuff. I'm right about the Archwell stuff. And now talking about this, I'm telling you, I'm not that far off. Before I go, let me ask this final question. What do you think is going to happen when people realize that they have been bamboozled from the very beginning? Because if I'm figuring this out and seeing it and showing it, eventually people will get to it. We're starting to see the dominoes fall, but will people ever find out? The race right now is to control the information. And that I believe Harry and Meghan thought when they were on this journey, that it wouldn't matter all these lies, because at that point when people started to realize what they did, it'd be too late because they got the control. That's what I honestly believe they thought was going to happen. And now you have somebody like me who's challenging this and they don't have control of the internet yet. So they're all panicking. The house of cards is literally about to come down. The question is, how quickly can these journalists get up to speed and put out the truth? Is it going to take another 2 to 3 years? I hope not, because we don't have another 2 to 3 years in order to keep our freedom of speech, freedom of thought, freedom of expression. They're moving at lightning speed to get this digital compact from the UN in place so they can control the information that the world sees. So we really do need to use our voices as we have them now before it is too late. And the fact is, if we lose our voices, don't come to me and start crying, because guess what? You're not going to be able to. You know what I mean? Think about that. Nobody's going to hear you. And that should scare people. I know it scares me. I don't want people like Meghan and Harry being the ones saying what goes and what doesn't, what you can have and what you can't, and you have no voice. Because these folks literally want to take that away. Meghan and Harry have done that to so many of us in this community already. The bullshit that they keep spewing out, saying that everybody should have equity and a voice. Well, guess what? Everybody will have equity if nobody is allowed to have a voice. They will achieve that. Am I making sense? I'm going to show you the rest of this in part 3 and show you how it all comes together. So make sure that you like this video. Also, be subscribed to be notified for when I do drop the third part so you don't miss it. Anyhow, definitely leave your thoughts below. As always, I will be back with more content, but until then, please be safe and I'll talk to you later. Bye!
I was such a fraud.